So hopefully you guys didn't cheat and did made some notes about this and actually thought about that. If you didn't, just pause it now. So comparative labor costs, which one has lower costs, right? Which one is best for labor costs? So that's the big one, right? So we know that United States we have a higher labor cost. We know that developing countries, and that's the advantage of developing countries is that they have a very low labor costs, right? So just for you guys to have an idea, the minimum wage, if I calculate it now for Brazil, a minimum wage to work in a full month. The minimum wage in Brazil now, if you kind of calculate by hour and someone working 40 hours a week, for example, it's $1.15. People are paid $1.15 in Brazil to work for an hour. And here we have the minimum wage at $7.25 in the federal level, and some states have minimum wage of $12 or $15. So the comparative labor costs are very, very different, right? How about rework and returns? So it's going to be a lot more difficult if you have a plant, yours or a supplier in developing countries, just because the returns will take more time, the rework will take more time, right? So stay in US, it'll be cheaper and easier. Logistics cost, well, that's also easy, right? So if I stay in US, it's closer. My logistics transportation costs are going to be lower. If I put my manufacturing plant or buy from someone in another country offshore, and these countries are not close to the United States, well, Mexico is, but the other ones are not, so logistics costs will be higher for the other countries. Taxes, well, other countries have kind of a higher taxes percentage. So, like Brazil, I know have a higher tax per product, but the cost of the product is a lot lower because of labor cost. So total taxes, you're going to pay a lot more in US than you're going to pay in other countries because of the unit cost for product, each product. Market effects, as I said, some companies use that brand, stay in US, produced in US to gain market. So there's benefits there. Labors and unions. So although there are laborers and unions in Brazil, Mexico, they are not as strong as they are here. Some parts of Brazil have strong unions, but most of it doesn't. So it's easier and better in developing countries. Political and economic instability. So, although you guys think that you have instability here in the United States, in developing countries, the thing is a lot more crazy. So, uh, 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 for example, Brazil is a country that, when I was born, it was a military dictatorship. It went back to being a democracy in the 1990. From 1990 until today, there have been two presidents that were impeached. And I'm not saying that kind of joke that you guys did here in US, so where they did, they knew that the Senate would not approve an impeachment. They were really impeached, and they were really kind of judged by the Supreme Court and all that, and took out of power and all that. So a lot more instability goes in, and the economy also, a lot kind of deeper dive into economic crisis and kind of fluctuation depending on political party that is there, right? Another caveat about Brazil, we had a time, I think it was a year ago, that we had two former presidents that were in jail at the same time, right? So now one president is not in is not in jail anymore. Both of them are not in jail anymore, but one of them is a convicted criminal. Uh, but he managed to be convicted, but still out of jail because of some kind of strings that he pulled with the Supreme Court. But that's a big other topic. Anyway, things are a lot more crazy there. So some pitfalls there in terms of outsourcing. So in the 80s and in beginning of 90s, companies kind of jump into the low cost wagon there and kind of wanted to move things to India, China, other countries, Mexico, and these countries kind of had like a boon in terms of development. But then these companies kind of found out that things are a little bit more difficult than they look like. Transferring technology, transferring know-how, quality control, all that's a lot more difficult if your supplier is in another country. So there were some drawbacks in companies coming back, right?